All right, back to the big story of the day, that landmark Supreme Court ruling on birthright citizenship. The court rejected President Trump's efforts to limit who can become a citizen, saying the Constitution makes it clear that a person born in the United States is a U.S. citizen. Joining us now is NBC News legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, walk us through this decision and why the justices landed the way they did.
The justices determined that the 14th Amendment, which says all persons who are born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof become citizens. Those 6 words, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, was the crux of this case. The majority determining that that means anybody who is subject to the laws of the United States. That means the law that's been in place since 1868, regardless of someone's parents' status in the country, if they are born here, they become U.S. citizens. So this is confirming and reaffirming what has been on the books for a very long time.
And Misty, this was likely the most consequential ruling having to do with immigration from the Supreme Court at this point, but it wasn't the only ruling. As you know, the court did hand the president some wins this term. Can you tell us about the big picture here and how has the court reshaped immigration law?
Yeah, absolutely. So for birthright citizenship, that goes against the Trump administration. It says that his executive order cannot go into effect. However, 2 other very consequential immigration decisions coming out during this term, one relating to asylum seekers, permitting a process called metering, which means that agents can stop asylum seekers at the U.S.-Mexico border before they step on U.S. soil. Again, this case coming down to what the definition of the term arrive means. If somebody is not on U.S. soil, they cannot seek asylum, they can actually be turned away. Another consequential case, temporary protective status being removed from Haitian and Syrian people in the country. This is a status that's given when it's too dangerous to return to a country. The court determining that the administration can make the decision about whether or not individuals from certain regions can have temporary protected status, and no one can second guess it, not even the court. So those were big victories for the administration when it comes to their immigration agenda.
But before we got to birthright citizenship, there were several other big rulings that came down before that, Misty, including one that allows states to prevent transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. This decision had to do with laws in 2 different states, but it is likely to impact many other states nationwide.
Yes, so these laws were upheld. The court determined that they did not violate Title IX, which is a federal law that protects against gender discrimination in federally funded education, and the Equal Protection Clause, which says that all citizens are to be treated the same and equally, including on the basis of gender. So these laws that were the subject of this consolidated Supreme Court decision related to 2 states, but there are 27 other states that have similar laws on the books. All of these laws are now a green light to move forward, and any other state that may have been contemplating enacting a law that's similar now has the ability to do so under this current Supreme Court decision.
So you've kind of set the stage for what's happened this term with this administration. What do you anticipate will be some of the big cases and what's going to be on the agenda, the top priorities for next term, Misty?
So we know that one case that the Supreme Court has agreed to hear in the next term has to go to assault weapons and whether or not they can be banned pursuant to the Second Amendment. So that is going to be a really consequential case that the court has decided to take up, will be heard next term, and we might be sitting here a year from now. This is when you hear those most consequential decisions coming out from the court in the last weeks of June and discussing how those cases turned out.
All right, Misty Marris, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate the insight. Thank you, Misty.